Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. Hi, welcome to Fairy Tale Access. I'm so excited to introduce you to Kelly Blanchard, the author of Someday I'll Be Redeemed. It's an action-packed adventure that you're going to absolutely love, and we're going to find out why they call her the Muse because of the way she wraps this adventure up. It's amazing. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for coming in this morning.
And thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
What state are you from?
I'm in Texas, from Texas.
Oh, so you're having a nice day out there.
I guess. I haven't been outside, but yeah.
Great. So tell me how you started this series with Lorrek.
Well, with Lorrek, the inspiration for the Chronicles of Lorrek actually came from the Thor movies with Loki. Because I always liked Loki, and I was like, what if he was just actually a misunderstood person? So I didn't want to write Norse mythology, but I liked Loki's character. So I kind of took that idea and I just created Lorrek's story. And that is where it took off. So.
Wow. Now tell me about the characters. How did you come up with the combination of characters? Do you base them off of real people and the magic? Was there a formula that went into how this all was supposed to play out?
Well, with the characters, I never base characters off of real people. Sometimes I take inspiration from movie characters, TV characters, things like that. And I, change things around and I make them their own unique character. And then just see what happens. So the character Vixen, the inspiration for her came from Nikita, the TV show Nikita. And the character's name is Nikita. And she's just an awesome assassin character. I was like, I really like that, but I want like a medieval fantasy setting. So that's what I did. And then changed the entire personality just developed and everything's just so unique for her. So each character is like that. As for the magic, it started off simple. It started off with me just like, okay, it's just a part of you, it's natural, it's instinctive. As the stories progresses and as I begin to publish more series, you get to see it becoming much more complicated. And there was a formula, there's an equation, there's things like that. It's very interesting how it develops like that. So.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Now, you also write with your husband. Did you write this series with your husband or by yourself?
I wrote the Chronicles of Lorrek by myself. The next series that we'll be publishing is the Cyrilian Gambit, and that's a series that we co-wrote together. So.
And what is that going to be about?
Well, it's in the same universe as the Chronicles of Lorrek, but it takes place like 40 to 50 years before the Chronicles of Lorrek. And it's focusing on some characters you actually meet in the Chronicles of Lorrek. And because you hint in the Chronicles of Lorrek, you get a little hint of what their backstory is. But in this series, you actually get to see it unfold and develop and see really what happened. So I can't go into too much detail because there's a lot of information.
All right. So before you wrote this series, though, had you written anything else?
Yes, I've written a lot way before I wrote that series. I actually published some historical fiction under a pen name, but historical fiction isn't my love. I love fantasy and science fiction. So I just like, you know what, I'm done with historical fiction. I don't like it that much. So I just dove into fantasy and science fiction.
How do you keep track of all the characters? Because there's so many involved and we really start to like them. No, but what you do that's amazing, that I absolutely love, is that you introduce us to all these characters and you really get us involved. Like, we have an investment in a lot of the characters that are in here. And at the end of the first book, Someday I'll Be Redeemed, you leave us with a jaw-dropping cliffhanger. But it's for only because and I haven't read one that ties it up so neatly. You went back and while you left us with a cliffhanger with the main character, you went back and gave us all the pieces of the puzzle. What happened to everybody else? Where did everybody else leave off? And, what was going through their mind or what was going to happen next, so that we felt like, okay, where's book 2?
Yeah. Well, book 1 and book 2, actually, I wrote it as one book. I didn't know it was going to be 2 books. So as I was revising it, I realized it was too long, so I needed to split it. But when I did that, I realized that all this other characters, you don't know what, you might have forgotten where they were. So I decided to tie it up nicely and remind you guys before you get on to the next book. So.
Well, it was a great part. Oh my gosh. It kept me up late for so many nights because it's like 450 pages approximately, 440.
Yeah.
How long is the second book?
It's about the same. Yeah, most of the books are about that length. Book 4 is a little shorter. Book 5 is longer. Book 6 is about the same as the others. 7, 8 about the same, and then 9 is like the longest. So
there's 9 in the series?
Yes, there are 9 books in the series.
Wow. So. And when is 9 the final number, or is there more?
9 is the final number for that series. So,
does your next series take any of the characters from this series over, or are you going to kill off one of our favorite characters?
Well, the next series is, remember, it takes place 40 or some years before the Chronicles of Lorrek. So you actually get to see characters that you're familiar with that are much younger. So that is always fun to do. Now, I do have a series that I'm working on that takes place after the Chronicles of Lorrek, and some characters might die. So.
Nice. So how do you decide who you're going to kill off? And does it hurt?
My husband is constantly saying, no, don't kill that character off. I'm kind of like, I'm going to kill the character off. So normally for me, it's just like, does this move the plot forward? And if it moves the plot forward and I can justify it, then I'll kill the character. And if I can see that the character is going to kind of be left on the wayside and forgotten about, I'll probably kill the character off instead of just forgetting about them. As far as does it hurt, it depends. Because sometimes I'm just like, this is such an awesome, epic fight scene. I mean, fight scene that the character dies in. I love it, so I'm more excited about it. And I know that the readers are going to cry. Other times I am just weeping and, I'm sobbing because of how heartbreaking it is. So.
Wow. What about your inspiration for the main character, Lorrek? How did you come up with him?
He came from Loki, the Thor, movies. Like, this is before the second one and the third one where Loki's like kind of sort of good. But he came from Loki, and I was like, what if he was actually a good guy, just really misunderstood? So I took that idea, didn't do anything with Norse mythology. I just took that idea. Because I always imagine Lorrek being like played by Tom Hiddleston, and so I took that idea and I just developed a story that is totally unique. That's nothing to do with Loki or anything, but that's just the core of who Lorrek is. Because you can see by his flamboyant attitude and how he likes to mess with people and so forth that he has a little bit of that Loki attitude.
He definitely does. He can be complicated and. Why did you do that? But he's so interesting and it's just exciting to follow. So what about now you're relaunching the whole series, is that correct? With a new publisher?
Yes. Fall Brand has been watching my progress, and they approached me and they said, we like what you're doing. We want to help you. So I signed on with them. So we moved on my books from Amazon, and they'll be launching the entire series, and the box set should be out by April 29th, and the first 3 books with that. And before the end of the year, all 9 books should be out again. So it shouldn't be a very long wait for everybody to catch up and read.
Oh, that's great. Will it have the same covers? Because these are really interesting.
Yes, that's one thing they liked about it. They said they loved the covers, so we're not changing the covers.
Is there somebody in particular you work with for the covers, or did you have different artists for each cover?
No, I have the same artist for them. And I love working with her because she not only just gets it right the first time, I'm kind of like, awesome. So.
Growing up, what type of books did you read that influenced your writing today?
Well, I read a lot of fantasy, of course, but then I also read fan fiction online where people are just writing other people's universes. And honestly, that is what really shaped my my writing style, because fan fiction is different from normal books, because I don't know, it's just much more fun and visual for me. So that's what really shaped with me. But Chronicles of Lorrek, the Chronicles of Narnia, and things like that. That's what I read when I was younger. So of course nowadays I don't have much time to read. I'm too busy writing.
But you're also helping other authors. So how did you get the nickname The Muse?
Well, in writing groups, I'm online on Facebook, and I'm really engaged in writing groups. So what I started doing in one group is I started sharing a picture a day, just, a beautiful picture. And they're like, oh, this is so pretty. It inspired me for this scene. So I was like, you know what? I have more pictures I keep finding on my Facebook, page that I want to share, but I don't want to just bombard the group with it. So I started, I created my own group, and I invited people to it, and I started sharing more pictures. And just what happened then was people were like, oh, that's my character, that looks just like my character, or that looks like a scene from my story, and so forth. So, or people are like, that's an awesome idea for a story, I'm going to write it. So they started having all these ideas. So they started calling me the Muse. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And then, they would come to me asking me for ideas of, how do I revise a novel? How do I do this? And then they're like, I have writer's block. So I actually interviewed people's characters, and it became more like a therapy session for the character, but it was lots of fun. So that's kind of how I got the name, the Muse, and it just stuck. So.
Oh, that's great. Is that a technique that you use when you're writing too, using different pictures to help you progress the story along?
Well, kind of. There are sometimes when I will see something, I'm like, oh, that's a great inspiration for this. And I'll save that picture on my phone, and I'm like, okay, in case I need it, I have it. So.
Wow. What other advice could you give for young authors or people that are interested in writing a story?
Well, my first, advice is don't worry about publishing that very first thing that you write. A lot of people are like, I want to write this book, I'm going to publish it. I'm like, well, first of all, you've never actually written characters before. You never figured out how to do plot, description, dialogue. That's a lot. You have a whole world you're trying to introduce. You don't know how to do that. So just, let's figure out the basics. Figure out how to do everything else, get all those tools, all those techniques figured out, and then, decide on a book you actually want to write. Apply all those lessons you've learned, and then that's what you can focus on. That's what I always recommend to beginning writers.
So what about world building? When you build this series, how do you keep track of everything? Do you have a board? Do you have a ton of notebooks?
It's all in my head.
No way, really? Because it's so intense. Kelly, it's amazing. There's so much going on. The world building is so great because they're believable places set in a medieval time. So it really takes you away. And Wow. It's all in your head. That's so simple. It can't be that simple.
I mean, I've tried writing, notes down, but the problem is that I misplaced those notes. I'm like, where is it on my computer? I don't know where it is. So it's easier for me to have it in my head because it makes sense. I mean, what you've read in the Chronicles of Lorrek is actually a small portion, and it's so much bigger than that. And I still have to, because I have all the series are interconnected, and I'm constantly hinting at things that are going to happen in other series and so forth. I'm laying the groundwork down for those things, even though they probably won't take place for 3 or 4 series later. But I'm already planting things down because I know what I'm trying to do. So yeah, it's all in my head right now. So.
See, I just don't understand how it could only be in your head because of the way that it's so cleanly written. And especially towards the end, it's like, the best way to explain it is that you hinted at other things that were going on along the way, but they weren't the pressing matter at the time. So it was always in the back of my mind, like, what happened? And then at the end or a couple chapters later, it all comes together. And you didn't lose us along the way. So I'm just wowed. So I was really just intrigued with the whole storyline and the fact that you could keep me up for 3 nights straight.
Not sorry at all.
I was sleepless. But it was so good. So really, it's just in your head?
Yep, it's on my head. I mean, like I said, I take notes, but most of my stuff that I take notes are like outlining, like this character, this scene is next, this scene is next, that scene is next. So when I go back, even then, I just do it very briefly. And then when I go back to it, I just go ahead and I'll write that way. But all the details are in my head. So.
All right. We'll let you get away with that. What about when you write with your husband, Matthew? What is that like?
Oh, it's so much fun. It's very addictive because what we do is he has a set of characters and I have a set of characters. And we know what the story is. We know what the scene is that needs to happen. And then we put the characters in a room together and I write my character, what they say and what they do. And then I just hand the computer over to him, and then he writes his character's response to it. And it's so much fun because even though we know what needs to happen in the scene, we don't know how it's going to happen. And there are times when my character would totally embarrass him, and I'm just like, what are you going to do? And he's just like, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, well, it's not me, it's a character. And it's a lot of fun because we can write like 10,000 words in a day when we finally just get going. It's so much fun.
Wow. Is that your full-time job, writing?
Right. Yes, writing is my full-time job. It's not his full-time job, but it's mine.
How does that work for a married couple, though? I mean, do you have arguments over who you're going to kill off?
Well, he is very good about convincing me not to kill characters off. And so most of my readers are so grateful for him because there's one character in the series, the Sailing Gambit, that we wrote that I just wanted to kill the character off. The character never died. But I'm like, why? But with the series we're co-writing right now, there is one character. I had to sit down with him and explain to him why this character needs to die. And he's like, okay, fine. I'm like, thank you. So he hasn't yet. When he wants to kill a character off, I'm like, okay, cool. But
so how do you guys? Wow. But how do you guys decide who's going to write what part? Or do you just play off each other as you go along?
Yeah, we play off each other because we each have our own set of characters. And, so sometimes I have just a scene that is just my character. So I just write that scene by myself. And I go, this is what happened. So he reads it. Oh, okay. And then sometimes he has characters, a scene that's just his characters. And he writes it by himself, and then I read it. I'm like, okay. But then when we have the characters interacting with each other, we just go back and forth, feeding off of each other right then and there when it comes to the interaction and so forth. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it sounds like it. I just forgot my question. What's your favorite for you? What character do you relate to most in the series?
In my series, Chronicles of Lorrek, oh, it's hard because like all the characters are different facets of me in a way. I think I can relate to Lorrek a lot because he's misunderstood in so many ways, and people think that he's like this, and no, he's really like that. And sometimes I feel like that with some people in real life. And but yeah, I think that's one character. There's a character you haven't met yet that I relate to a lot. I would say she's the most me in the series. Her name is Glassdella. And she's much later in the series, but I relate to her a lot too because, like I said, I think she's the most of me that there could be. So
nice. Now, this series and the new series that you're working on, will the universe, the story part of the universe, will that go together?
Everything goes together. It's all connected. It's so much fun.
Yeah. All right. What else are you working on next?
Well, right now we're working on the series that takes place immediately after the Chronicles of Lorrek. And then we have another series that's already, the stage is being set for the next series. Because I can't go into detail. And then I have like 3 or 4 other series after that. All of them I'm just waiting to finally get around to writing. And they're all in the same universe. So,
how many hours a day do you write?
I don't time it. I just, however long it takes me to write 2,000 words by myself to like 10,000 words with my husband if he's home. So it can be like an hour, to be honest, a day if I just want to write like that. Or sometimes it could be all day, just depending on what I had to get done that day and how much, what's going on with the writing, so forth.
Wow. Was this what you always planned to do?
Oh, yes. Always wanted to be a writer, and yeah.
Where did you go to school? What kind of steps did you take to lead you to here?
Well, when I was homeschooled, and my mom was really encouraging me with writing and stories. So that was very nice. And then I went to a community college and I studied English. And I was still just trying to figure out what I was doing with writing because I wanted to write. I didn't know the steps. And then after I graduated from community college, I went on to a university and I was studying creative writing. And honestly, I was really disappointed in the what I was being taught there because it was really all old-fashioned kind of things that they were teaching. I was like, this doesn't apply these days. So on my senior year, I dropped out. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to figure out myself because nothing is working. So that's when I was writing historical fiction, and I said, I'm going to try self-publishing. I'm going to try to publish. So that's what I did. I dropped out of university my senior year, and I started publishing books, and I've been doing it ever since. So. What
about the action scenes in here? What type of activities do you do outside to prepare you?
Well, I've taken martial art classes. I have taken fencing, which is sword fighting. I do archery as well. And I also shoot guns too. So all that stuff I've probably learned those so I can, write action scenes better because action scenes are very important to me.
Well, they're so strong in this series. They're just so well done and believable. So it makes sense that you can do all of those activities. I don't know when you squeeze it all in. It's really an amazing series. And thank you so much for sharing it with our audience. And the title, Someday I'll Be Redeemed. Mm-hmm. It's more the character's idea that he needs to be redeemed than the way other people see him, right?
Yeah.
Is that the way it goes through the series?
Well, I mean, he feels like he needs to be redeemed because, everybody thinks that he, committed these, all his crimes and stuff like that. He's like, I just want to clear my name. So that's why he feels like he wants to be redeemed. But as you can see, that line is actually spoken in that book. It's like, maybe someday I'll be redeemed. And then, the cliffhanger. And so, yeah, that's what the title, the line of the books are normally in the book. I mean, the title of the book are normally in the book somewhere.
Great. Well, I can't wait to read more. Thank you so much for sharing so much about how you came up with this amazing series.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So if you guys want more information and you want a silver tongue sorcerer, this is definitely the series to check out. We'll see you soon.